What is going on, everybody? I hope you're having a good week so far. So today I decided to cover the 10 most badass action games that you can play on the ROG Ally. And these games in particular are action titles that I have been going back to for years on end, since they released on Steam specifically. So for the most part, you're not going to find these games on other platforms, or you may find them on other platforms, I'm not sure, but I am focusing on the best action games on Steam, specifically because it's just easier to find them all in one place. But if you want to have a good time with the game and just forget about all your problems and feel like an absolute badass, these are the 10 best games to do just that, and that work perfectly on the ROG Ally, and in most cases, with a considerably low TDP range from 8 to 15 watts. And these games aren't in any particular order. I think they are equally badass in their own way. I don't think any of them are better than the other. And the first game on the list, I mainly picked it because it is easier to play than the other versions of it, and that game is Ninja Gaiden Razor's Edge. With this high-flying action hack and slash title, you'll be playing a character called Ryu Hayabusa. He's an expert super ninja that can pretty much do anything from casting fire, ice, and electric spells, shooting arrows that can explode on impact, to slicing all of your enemies to bits when weakened. This action game provided thousands upon thousands of hours of fun for me, and it continues to be one of the most badass games I've ever played in my entire life. At first, Ninja Gaiden 3 didn't show up with a gracious entrance, but Razor's Edge improves everything that Ninja Gaiden 3 was and adds even more characters to the fray. The storyline and premise is pretty much focused around the fact that Ryu Hayabusa has killed too many people. He lived too long, so now that bad karma is coming back to kill him. So pretty much he's fighting against his own bad karma, and he's trying to beat it. In a way similar to how Goku just dies of a heart attack because he's just working out too much, I guess. Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge will have you on the edge of your seat, pun intended, I don't care, for the majority of the game, because you're gonna have to survive through waves and waves of enemies in basically 5-minute intervals. And if you can't survive Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge, absolute grueling action set pieces that'll have you clawing at your fingers, biting all your nails off, and just yelling with exhilaration, then maybe action games aren't for you. And moving on to the next game on the list, I think this was obvious when I made this list, but Devil May Cry 5 is the quintessential action-adventure title to make you feel like a complete badass. You play as Dante, Nero, and Virgil, and these characters are pretty much half human, half demon incarnates that were spawned to make devils cry and demons fall under their feet. All of these characters, even one of them, makes the Doomslayer look ordinary and boring in comparison. Devil May Cry 5 is probably the most impressive action title you'll play ever because of the amount of style and thought put into every single move, every single weapon and character you encounter and upgrade to. And yes, you can upgrade into different characters in a sense. And of course, naturally, like with Ninja Gaiden 3, I'll display the best settings that I've made for Devil May Cry 5, so you'll have to watch the video in order to see what are the best settings and scenarios to play on your ROG Ally. But pretty much with Devil May Cry 5, you can play any way you like on the ROG Ally. It's almost like it's made for the system. It's an absolutely incredible title to play on the go and docked especially. And the next game on the list is Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. Now, this game had a lot of phantom pain and drama when Konami pulled what they did with Hideo Kojima, but this is a Hideo Kojima game. So all of the characters have the most methodical scripts and storylines you can possibly think of in your best and most detailed dream. But not only that, you are playing as Big Boss. He is, as his name implies, the boss of a huge military company that can pretty much take whatever the hell they want. You show up, you make things fly in the sky so they can be zipped up into a jet to build your army even further. You're able to pretty much build any weapon you want by telling people what to do. You can pretty much throw people around and punch them in the face and they'll thank you for it because you're the big boss in this game. The movements, dialogue, environments all work synonymously to make the best action experience you can possibly have in an open world game. And of course, the main objective is to sneak into certain bases or just take them out however you please. You can even call your helicopter friends to shoot them down with missiles. You can customize your helicopters. This is sort of the best customizable open world world game you can ever play while feeling like a solid and badass character at the same time. And the next game on the list is related to the last one, and that is none other than Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. And that is quite a title, but it actually lives up to it, because if you've ever wanted to play a cyborg ninja hack and slash game, comes probably one of the most ridiculous and high octane action games I have ever played. And that is Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. And I have to say the title twice because it's sort of hard to believe they named it that, honestly. But in this game, you're playing a cyborg ninja named Raiden, and he is a character that has frequently appeared in Metal Gear Solid titles. He has a blade which has high frequencies, so technically it doesn't cut through enemies, it just splits their atoms apart. Well, not really their atoms, but their cells. So pretty much you can cut any enemy into hundreds of pieces, including all of the environments in the game, or most of the environments. If you need to climb up some kind of stairwell, you can cut that stairwell into a billion pieces and just climb up the wall the old-fashioned way, the way ninjas do. That somehow isn't the most badass part of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. It is 100% the soundtrack. Every time a certain point in an action sequence kicks in, the soundtrack also transitions into an even more intense part of the song. So say if you've been fighting a boss and then the boss transforms and he becomes this insane version of himself, their theme song will most likely transition into probably the final part of the song, which is most likely the most intense. And that just makes you feel like there's more at stake and you're part of something bigger. But everything culminates together and makes this ridiculously thematic experience. And if you're an action adventure fan, then you probably already know about this game, and there's no doubt that it's a lot of people's favorite title. And the next title on the list, of course, is not in any particular order, and that is Ninja Gaiden Sigma. This is what started the entire series for Ninja Gaiden. Well, not exactly. Ninja Gaiden Black was the first Ninja Gaiden game that people really noticed because it had everything that the original had and so much more. And Sigma kind of takes the reins of being that reboot of Ninja Gaiden, but it really wasn't. But in my opinion, Ninja Gaiden Sigma is still an incredible version of the original Ninja Gaiden game with all new cutscenes, boss battles, and graphics. It is an upgraded version of what started it all, and Ninja Gaiden Sigma, at its core, isn't exactly as intense as Ninja Gaiden Razor's Edge. In fact, sometimes it doesn't come close, but at its heart, it is one of the most well-balanced action games you'll ever play, and you're a ninja, so you would expect Ryu Hayabusa's movements to be as fluid as the game's balancing. Well, he's probably more fluid than that. And unlike the other Ninja Gaidens in the series, you can't sever enemies' limbs or weaken them in order to do an obliteration technique. You simply just have to either slice them to death or cut off their head, whichever comes first. But you also have something called Ninpo, which are spells like electricity, fire, and even wind. And there are a plethora of weapons to master and level up, such as a wooden sword that if you level it up enough, there's a surprise. But not only that, the storyline to Ninja Gaiden Sigma is among the best in any action game. You're actually invested in every single step of the way in this title and the story. Pretty much you are the leader, or the son of the leader at this point, of the dragon lineage's Hayabusa clan. And at the beginning of the game, you pretty much fail. It's attacked by a greater fiend emperor called Doku, which is pretty much in charge of another ninja clan called the Black Spider Clan. Or they're just all attacking you at the same time. Either way, there are bad guys that want your clan dead because of the weapon that you wield, which is the Dragon Sword. And the Dragon Sword, for the most part, is Ninja Gaiden's equivalent to a lightsaber. It's the chosen sword, the ultimate weapon. You can use other weapons like nunchucks with swords attached to them, which I find to be the most badass weapon to use in Ninja Gaiden Sigma. Or you can just straight up go with the Dragon Sword. And if you go with that one, I won't blame you. It is the most balanced weapon in the game. But if you pick up Ninja Gaiden Sigma, you will not regret it. This action game is insane for the most part. And the next action game on the list is, naturally, Batman Arkham City. This game is straight up a 10 out of 10. It's a perfect superhero game. If you want to feel like a badass, just feel like Batman instead. From the numerous gadgets that you have in the game, like exploding gel, zip lines, grapnel hooks, batarangs. Heck, Batman doesn't even need all those gadgets in this game because the combat is simply smooth. It's called a free flow combat system, which can allow you to attack any number of enemies. Let there be 5 to even 25 enemies on the screen. You can simultaneously attack some of them by countering, or you can just go from one to the other in a free flow motion, for a lack of a better word. This version of Batman in Arkham City is the most confident and capable in terms of gameplay, story, and just voice actors. And even his look is the best I've ever seen in anything. This is not only a badass action game, it is the best Batman game you will ever play in your entire life. And after playing Suicide Squad for just a little bit, it is damn clear that we're not going to get any better than Arkham City. I wouldn't expect a better Batman game anytime soon or ever. This is probably the best we're going to get. And it is the best I've ever played. And the next title on the list has to be that good old classic that nothing can ever beat, and that is Max Payne 3. Max Payne 3 makes all of those Die Hard movies with Bruce Willis look like a fucking Air Bud movie. Max Payne 3 takes the concept of an action game and then flips it on its head and throws some guns in it. This game is a bona fide action movie with narrations at the beginning taking you from the end of the game to the beginning, to cutscenes that were masterfully polished to add even more flair and art style, just to convey the story and the emotions of the characters even further. And then you have bullet time, which you didn't think could get even better than the first two Max Paynes, but somehow there's some kind of reactive system that when you shoot an enemy, even shoot them in the hand, they just spin around based on the momentum and where you shoot them. So if an enemy even shoots you in the kneecap, you fall down and then you go into this bullet time state where you're falling and you're shooting at the same time. So you have to actually calculate the trajectory of where the bullet is going to go. And then you shoot that, and there's even more calculations that the physics engine in this game goes through to see exactly where the enemy will flail around based on your trajectory that was adjusted by their initial shot. Now, when I say that, it makes no sense, but in action and motion, this game is phenomenal. It's pretty much one of the most realistic action third-person shooters in recent memory. There's been nothing like it. Now, the next title is technically an action-adventure game. I mean, why wouldn't it be? But just 2 minutes alone with Sonic Generations, and you'll know exactly why I put this on the list. It is an extremely high-paced, heart-pounding, non-stop action platformer that has evolved the Sonic formula into something only the most potent drugs can emulate, and that is Sonic's sheer speed. He literally goes in the speed of sound in this game. You cover more than 100 miles in 2 minutes. And not only that, there are enemies and platforms to get through, as well as boss battles. Sonic Generation isn't only an accomplished action game and probably the best Sonic game you'll ever play, but it's a culmination of the best moments in every single Sonic game, transitioned into the best form, which is Sonic the Hedgehog's boost gameplay. And every stage from Green Hill Zone to City Escape has been redone, reformed, and fastened for this extremely high-speed action game. And the next game is a legendary one. It's something that I can't deny is probably better than the rest of these titles because it has come out more recent and people have made a bigger deal out of it. And that game is, of course, God of War. In God of War, you are playing as a Spartan warrior and god named Kratos. The whole premise of God of War is for Kratos to get past the death of his wife and to protect his son Atreus. Now, it doesn't sound too badass, but Kratos has quite the dark past. He has killed Zeus and the rest of his godly offsprings in order to exact revenge for killing his previous family. And because of that experience, Kratos is capable of incredible feats. He can single-handedly take on a giant. He can break Earth with either his hands or his Chaos Blades. And this time around, Kratos doesn't exactly right away have his Chaos Blades. Instead, he's suited with an axe. But this axe acts like Mjolnir from the Avengers movies. He can pretty much throw it anywhere he wants, and then he can call it back. So that means you can shoot your axe behind an enemy, call it back, and have the axe literally stab the enemy in the back. There are so many tricks that Kratos can pull off with his basically Mjolnir axe. The Leviathan axe is probably one of the coolest weapons you'll ever use in any game because of its physics alone. But the detail in God of War really pulls you into the action to the point it just simply feels like a movie. You don't feel like you're playing a game at times. Everything in God of War just plays out the way it's supposed to, and you can just tell that so much thought was put into it and so much heart is in this game. It not only teaches you how to be a sustainable and improved warrior, but God of War sort of teaches you how to be a patient and kind-hearted gentleman. in the only way a gentleman can be while at war, and that is with precise strength and care. And Kratos, more than anything, is badass because he does put these two factors together. And I think that's more badass than these other characters on the list personally, because he takes care of his son properly and he learns how to be a father, and also he looks absolutely badass while doing it. And that's a hard thing to accomplish, and it's taken me personally as a man a long time to find a good middle ground between those two aspects. And in this game, Kratos does find that middle ground, and he works with it with flying colors at times. If you haven't checked out God of War already and you're into action titles, or even if you're not into action adventure games, give this game a try. And the last game on the list, like I said, none of these games are in particular order, so I don't think it's better than God of War. Calm down. Is Sifu. Sifu is a love letter to all action movie fans, like the good old Bruce Lee titles like Enter the Dragon, Jet Li movies, and even Jackie Chan movies, because you can pretty much do any and all tricks that those amazing action stars pulled off in those films, like throw chairs around, use environments to your advantage, pull off combos on enemies, walk down a hallway and just take out every enemy in the hallway right as they're coming at you. Sifu is hands down the most badass game I've ever played, because simply from the very start of it, you are a badass. You don't have to earn anything. You don't have to get into particular angles or scenes in order to feel more badass. You just are a badass all the time, 24/7, 100% of the game, because you are capable of anything you want. In Sifu, you play a man that has lost his father and who's seeking revenge on a particular group. So you literally hunt down all members of this group 8 years after your father's death. You've culminated all of the martial art techniques that your father has taught you and that you have learned along the way. But not only that, when you're defeated, you progress in time and learn even more how to become stronger, but you grow a little older. You come back multiple years later, and you can go up to the age 85, I believe, or even 100 in some cases, based on how well you do and how many recoveries you succeed at, which is pretty much a combo or just defeating an enemy without getting hit. And that determines how long you live and how much you can learn. And at some point in the game, no matter what, you'll eventually reach a point where you're a 75-year-old man fighting 20 people. And there's no more badass situation than that. Proving all of your enemies wrong and coming back even stronger even as an old man. Sifu teaches you about patience and resilience, and you're going to have to be very resourceful in order to beat certain enemies and certain amount of enemies in this game. Sifu takes all of the best parts of every action movie I've ever seen and puts it into this title, into exceptionally well-crafted environments that speak true to older action titles and the bosses that you will eventually face. From the start to the end of each level, you feel the tension that the main character feels towards that particular member of that group that killed your father. You are dead set in one direction to kill this boss, and nothing will stand in your way. I think that is the ultimate form of badassery in any game I've ever played. No matter who throws what at you, or how many enemies come at you, or what they say to you, you can choose to just say nothing and just smack them in the face, toss them towards a wall, and just keep moving forward to your ultimate destination, which is vengeance. And I think in some ways, this game makes you feel more like Batman than certain Arkham games did, because this guy will not stop until he gets what he wants. And Sifu just makes you feel like Jet Li going down a hallway full of impossible odds and enemies, or Jackie Chan trying to escape from a bigger than usual enemy that he didn't expect, or even Ong Bak trying to fight his way through an arena of enemies with barely any health left or any energy left in his tank. And of course, naturally, the whole game is a tribute to Bruce Lee and Enter the Dragon, going through different levels of each stage, with sometimes even the color of the stage changing, just like with Enter the Dragon. But yeah, that has been the top 10 most badass games you could play on the ROG Ally. I hope I provided enough information in the video to explain exactly what are the best settings and TDP states that you can put the ROG Ally in to make it play these games as best as possible for as long as possible. And please, if you haven't checked out any of these games on the list, give them a try, especially on the ROG Ally, because they are simply amazing. And sometimes we don't need something that's too complicated to make us feel better about ourselves or just forget our problems. And these games, honestly, every time I play them, I forget about all my problems, all the drama, any of my worries, and I just feel like a complete badass in the moment while I'm playing Seafood, Ninja Gaiden, God of War, or Devil May Cry. These games, even though they may be simple and just getting to the point a little too soon, like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, they do pull me into the moment and make me forget about everything else. And sometimes you don't want a story-dense game. Sometimes you just want to be that one special exception in a game and character that can just do anything they want. You just want to feel all powerful, and these games help you feel just that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a good one. Later.